And I said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, St. Vince." And they said, "Well, it turns out they were from ESPN." They said, "Well, what brings you to Kill, Mississippi?" I said, "Well, I think I came up with my best one-liner ever. I said, if you look straight up above us, there's a bright star shining in the sky." And I said, I decided to follow that star, and here we are, just outside of New Orleans. I think I'm supposed to be here. So they like that. And so they said at the end of the interview, they said, "Do you have any wise words, for fans back home?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "The Packers are the greatest football team in the history of the NFL, and the Bears still suck."
Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it. On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with a very special guest, Mr. John O'Neill, better known as St. Vince. How are you doing today, John?
Very well, thank you.
I understand you're not exactly in Wisconsin right now. You're braving the elements somewhere else.
Yeah, the Packers season is over, and so now it's on to my winter home in Arizona to thaw out. So, yeah, it's tough, but somebody's got to do it.
Not all heroes wear capes. Well, let's jump into it. One of the important things about this show is I love talking about the aspect of networking. Of course, I reached out to you on Facebook, but the first chance I really got to meet you, and I know it was brief, and it was actually at Brett Favre's induction in Canton, Ohio. I was an intern running around like crazy, and you were, of course, there taking photos with, hundreds of people. And I just remember for me was that little connection
Yeah.
to home. Hadn't been home for quite a while, and just got excited to see St. Vince at, of course, being part of Favre's induction. It's just one of those things that, as you mentioned, 99.99 repeating, people are really excited when they see you walking around outside of Lambeau.
Yeah, and that is really what is the most important thing. When I go there as Saint Vince, it's almost like Clark Kent getting into the Superman outfit, and I know that it's not about me. I represent. Uh, the Green Bay Packers and everything there is to about Green Bay. And Bob Harlan came up to me one time, uh, and he said, "I really would like to thank you personally for what you do. We consider you kind of an ambassador for the Green Bay Packers." He says, "There's really nothing officially we can do for you." And I stopped Bob right there. I said, "There's nothing that I'm asking for either." I said, "My reward is, having the distinct honor, really, of meeting tens of thousands of Packer fans that I would normally not be able to do that with, and get to know so many of them." And when when I see, kids that are at their first game and they're just ready to explode with excitement. I can remember that feeling, and so and it's very special. And I don't think anybody ever forgets their first Green Bay Packer game. And so what I decided to do was try to give them a little gift as a memento. So I had you know. One of the things I do is there's this bobblehead that I had made many years ago, and I give the kids one of those, and right on the back of the miter, there's plenty of room for writing. Let's say to Billy, on your first Green Bay Packers game, and date it and sign it for them. And I've been doing that for, well, now it's been probably about 25 years that I've been doing that. And now I have adults coming up to me and saying, I still have my bobblehead. I still have my statue. And, that brings it all home for me, and seeing, having pictures taken with little kids and sometimes they'll bring me those pictures and now they're adults. And they just, tell me that it was really special for them. And, God knows it was special for me too. So that's what really, motivates me to do this. And nowadays, it's there's more and more fans, dressing up and getting crazy and all of that, and that's fine and good. But if they're lucky enough to become, and very few do this, actually become identified with the team, as part of the experience. That's really special. People like the Hogettes from the Washington former Washington Redskins. Those guys were icons, and you can dress up as in any costume you want, and sometimes the fans just don't understand it, and sometimes they grab onto it and hold on to it, and you've suddenly become, part of the fabric of the entire experience. And it's a hit and miss. Few make it, and I've been fortunate to be one of those few, and most don't. But I'm thankful for that it's worked out the way it has. For me.
What's your comic book issue number one? What's that origin story? Who are you?
Well, I've been a Packer fan since as long as I can remember. I do recall sitting on my father's lap when I'm about 4 or 5, and we're watching a small black and white TV. He's trying to explain to me who the good guys are and who the bad guys are and what the whole idea of the game is. Still have very warm, memorable thoughts about that. And it was not until another 5, 6 years later that I actually went to my first Packer game. It was at Milwaukee, actually. But I had never seen the Packers other than on a black and white TV. And so when I went through the tunnel, and looked out onto the field, I was momentarily surprised to see that this is all in color. Kind of dumb, but it was, I was about 11 years old or so, give or take, and just a momentary, oh yeah, this is in color. So yeah, it was. Uh, I think like tens of thousands, if not millions, of people in Wisconsin. You learn what a Green Bay Packer is at a very early age. You start watching them. They become your heroes in many cases. I knew the names of Bart Starr, Paul Hornung, Jim Taylor, and all of the others at a very early age, and look forward to the game at noon on Sundays. Hosted by Ray Scott, and it just it was great. I have memories of watching Vince Lombardi talking with George Halas before Bears Packers football games. So special memories that I've grown up with and always cherished. My first Packer game was actually, it was a year to the day after the Kennedy assassination. So it was November 22nd, 1964. Went there with my grandfather, and we were playing the Cleveland Browns, and he always managed to get really good seats, and we were close enough to the Packers bench where I could actually see and hear Lombardi, and he was it was late in the game, and we had the game won. There was no question about that. And I remember, asking him, why is Lombardi so mad? We're winning, and he said, well, he'll be happy after the game's over and done with. But until that time, that's who Lombardi is. And I got to understand that more as time went on. So, going to games with my grandfather, my father, whenever I could. Most often was in Milwaukee and not Lambeau Field because Milwaukee was closer to us. And so that made it a little bit more convenient. But, I fast forward all the way to, when the Packers went to Super Bowl 31. And my wife and I had made an agreement before the game had been played that if they should make it to the Super Bowl that year, that we were going to go. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So when they beat the Carolina Panthers to advance to that Super Bowl, it was immediately okay. What do we wear for this special occasion? Because it was, for I had seen Super Bowls on TV when I was a teenager that the Packers were in, but I was actually going to go to one, which it was hard for me to even imagine actually going to a Super Bowl. So I wanted to dress up in some special way, but I really wasn't quite sure how to do it. And my wife knew that I was always a huge Lombardi fan, and I said this was the first Super Bowl that the Packers were going to be at without Lombardi, and so the idea came up to the two of us that why don't I try to, in some way, shape, or form, try to represent the spirit of Lombardi, come back to see his Packers in yet another Super Bowl. So with that crazy idea installed in my brain, we came up with this idea of a Saint Vince, and because Saint Vince wasn't the term wasn't even that much of a stretch because Lombardi's name is so revered in Green Bay and Wisconsin and really around the NFL that you almost bow your head in reverence when you speak the name. So using the word saint wasn't a big stretch. So we came up with this outfit that resembled a bishop and with the word Saint Vince on the top of the mitre. And now I knew that I would get some attention with that, but I figured driving down there with my wife and a couple of close friends that it really wouldn't be that bizarre because I figured there'd be thousands of fans in different outfits, so this would blend right in. And the Friday night that we got down there before the Super Bowl, we went to Kiln, Mississippi, Brett Favre's hometown, and they were having a party there that night, to Packer fans. So we thought that would be a good time. It was only 50 miles away from New Orleans. So we drove over there, and there was this little town that I don't even think has stoplights. And there were so many people there that we had to park probably a quarter to a half a mile outside of town on these dark roads that had absolutely no light other than the stars. That was it. And so we were ready to go, and of course they wanted me to get into the outfit, and I almost chickened out. I said to the others, I said, I don't know if this is a good idea tonight. I said, Kill, Mississippi. Everybody knows that's a redneck little town. This might be the most conservative section of the Southern Baptists in the country, and they see me coming into town. I said, hell, I might be tarred and feathered for all I know. So I was having second thoughts about it, but they talked me into it. So we walked into town, and the first actually people we see was there was three or four members of the Mississippi State Patrol standing under a streetlight. So I figured, well, that might be a good place to, be safe. Maybe, I didn't know if they were, would be with it or not either, to tell you the truth. But so we were standing there talking with them for a minute, and then this bunch of people start running towards me with lights and just it was quite noticeable. And suddenly, I have this big floodlight on me and a microphone, to my mouth, and they said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, St. Vince." And they said, "Well." It turns out they were from ESPN. They said, "Well, what brings you to kill Mississippi?" I said, "Well, I think I came up with my best one-liner ever. I said, if you look straight up above us, there's a bright star shining in the sky." And I said, I decided to follow that star, and here we are, just outside of New Orleans. I think I'm supposed to be here. So they like that. And so they said at the end of the interview, they said, "Do you have any wise words, for fans back home?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "The Packers are the greatest football team in the history of the NFL, and the Bears still suck." And they turned off the floodlight, and the interviewer said, "Well, I don't know if we can go with that last one, but we'll run it anyway. We'll see if they chop that off." And a few days later, when I got home, some good friends at work said, "Oh, so the Bears still suck, huh?" So I said, "Great." They ran with it. So that was the introduction to St. Vince, and the whole weekend was nothing but an absolute blur. Uh, I literally uh, posed with thousands of pictures with thousands of fans in New Orleans. And the one thing that I kept on hearing from people said, "Oh my God, this is such a great photo op. You should charge for this." And we wouldn't think of charging anybody, but then I got to think of, well, maybe we can do a little good and have some fun at the same time. So made up a little side, a dollar donation for photographs. Proceeds go to Brett Favre's charity, one of his charities, the American Cancer Society. We wanted to do that since that's what Lombardi died from, of cancer. So we did that, and we ended up with several $100s. By the end of by game time Sunday, and on the way back home, driving back home, we stopped in Mississippi at Brett Favre's agent's office, and we dropped off the money there, and they were surprised, to say the least. Just a couple of unknown people just dropping in and giving them hundreds of dollars for those charities. But they said that they would make sure it got to the right place, and they said, if you need anything signed by Brett, just let us know, and we'll take care of it for you. So he and Reggie White both signed a time cover that they were on that week. So that was very nice. So that was my introduction to Packer fans, and that was in 1997, January 97. And here we are, 27 years later. We're still doing it. I'll put it this way: any politician would be very pleased to have my numbers as far as popularity is concerned. I'd say I'm accepted by about 99.5% of Packer fans, and there's a few that may not understand, but hey, you can't please everybody all the time. So I'll go with that. So it's been quite a ride.
Absolutely. On everyone's journey, there's a chance we go east, a chance we go west. You make a decision,
Yeah.
do something, not really knowing the outcome. Can you give me a
Yeah.
time in your life when you did that?
Oh, I do that. I've done that my whole life. Whether it's business or things like this, and almost say, well, maybe it's true. Ignorance is bliss. You don't know what you don't know, but you shouldn't be afraid of it either. there's so many people, the vast majority, I believe, that lead their lives very uh, normal lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's some that take a chance and step into the unknown and see what happens. I always remember my father telling me at a young age that I will probably regret more things that I didn't do than for things that I did do. And I think he was dead on right about that. Uh, it's you just go for it. That's the easiest way to put it. Just to hell with the naysayers. Just give it a shot and see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? It's been great. We've gotten some experiences that would have never come my way. Had I not done this, had I not decided to get up in this crazy outfit and go to Kill, Mississippi for that first party Friday night. I've had the opportunities to get to know uh, in various levels with a lot of the Packer greats: Bart Starr, Paul Horning, Jim Taylor, Max McGee, Fuzzy, Jerry Kramer, and it goes on and on. And it's uh, it's been a real thrill, for me to be able to look back and say, God, these are my heroes when I was a kid, and now they recognize me. My God, that's just unbelievable in so many ways. I think probably one of the best things that I was ever honored with was in 2006, Howie Long, when he does his annual Tough Guy list, which is going to come out again in a couple of weeks. Um, in 2006, he decided he was going to honor the fans. So he chose four well-known football fans across the country in no particular order or team, and I was one of the four for always, being there, for my Packers, despite records, despite weather, always there backing the pack, and that meant a lot to me. That really sunk in, and done ads, done national ad campaigns, statewide ad campaigns. It's all fun, But again, you got to keep in mind this is not about you. It's the image that you portray. So you know, and it's true in that how many people know my name, my real name. So and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So it's you know the best thing that I think about the entire experience, though, is to be able to walk into the parking lot of Lambeau Field during a game, 3 hours before the game, and being welcome and people wanting pictures and I can go basically from tailgate party to tailgate party to tailgate party, and be welcome with open arms. And uh, how many people get to really experience that? I have told people countless times, when they're at Lambeau, I said, being here in the parking lot at your own tailgate party is great, but really what you should do is take some time out and walk around. See what's going on here. Take it all in, because if you have 80,000 fans that are there, and let's say you have on average, easy numbers, 8 people to a tailgate party, that means you got 10,000 parties going on simultaneously. What's not to love about that? And if you stay in your own little spot in the parking lot, It's like being at a symphony and only hearing one instrument. You got to take it all in and hear and see and watch it all because it's a marvelous. It's considered by many in as the best sports venue in all of sports, not just the NFL, but of all of sports. And we are lucky enough to have it, in a town of a little over 100,000 in Wisconsin. You know.
We truly are very fortunate. One of my favorite things is bringing
Mhm.
people to their first games, and I think after a while they know how big of a sports fan I am, how big of a Packers fan I am, and once they get there, like, okay, I get it now. We pull into the neighborhood, we park in the yard, we park at a church, and just the entire atmosphere. People are talking to each other like they've known each other for years, and it's just one of those incredible
Yeah,
things I don't think we see a whole lot anymore in sports or in life in general. So, title of the podcast, Into the Unknown. What are you working on? What do you have going on right now?
I was. I like to make comments on my Facebook page, about football. I do enjoy that, and just last night I made a comment, and it's open for criticism by some, and that's all good. I would expect that, but I was simply saying that I really hoped that the Detroit Lions would win that game and advance to the Super Bowl. I mean, my God, they've waited long enough. If it can't be us, let it be them. Of course, on the other hand, if the same thing held true for Minnesota, I would never say that. Never in a million years would I say that. That
I
they
couldn't
they
agree
haven't
more.
waited long enough. They've only been in the league since 1961. And it's my fervent hope that I should die of old age before they ever make it to and win a Super Bowl. So if they're ever on the verge of that, you can see my obituary the next day. So, but it's time to, this time of year now, it's time to kind of, relax, kick back, and see, see what we're going to be doing for the draft. Come up in April. So,
Well, I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to talk with me today. What you mean to the game, what you mean to the Packers. It's been so fun to share stories about Packer fans all over the country. And while this isn't per se a Packers podcast, I have sure snuck a lot of Packers related guests and subjects in here. So it's just thanks again for talking with me today.
yeah, it's been my pleasure. Nice talking with you as well.
That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.